K-Wave 6 Radio and our host Kirk Spencer welcome you to our show bringing positive messages to today's world. And now, here's Kirk.
Hello and welcome to K-Wave 6 Radio. Today I have a very special guest. I met her through LinkedIn of all places. And she was just talking about something that's very close and passionate to me because, as maybe some of you have heard in the past, I'm a holistic therapist, not really practicing too much anymore. But she has got an offer, which we're going to talk about at the last half of the show. But she has a very interesting story to tell us about how she became the entrepreneur and the individual that she is today. So today I'm going to introduce you to the owner and, owner-operator of MyGreensurance.com, Kari Gray. Welcome to the show.
Hello, aloha from Hawaii.
Yes,
Nice to be with everybody today.
Yes, it's indeed. It's good to have you here. I suppose since I talked a little bit about Greensurance, why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll start finding out more about who Kari Gray is and how she became who she is today.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, what Greensurance is in one simple sentence is we are a co-op movement. We're a grassroots movement for the first alternative medicine health plan. So it's coverage for modalities that have never been treated before. That's what Greensurance is about. And so it's been a long voyage to get here, but we are here and we're really excited about the doors of opportunity that are opening for people to finally have something that they've never had access to before.
Mm-hmm. Well, I like that. It's grassroots for modalities that have never been covered by any before. When I was working in a clinic in Chicago, that was definitely a concern because most insurance companies would not cover what we call alternative medicine, which is kind of a weird thing because the medicine that I practice is something that's been around for centuries, and the new modality is pills. That's the alternative therapies. But at any rate, we'll get back to that in a little bit. So, Kari, you didn't just get born into this. So tell us something about you.
Well, I was born in Omaha, Nebraska in the frigid winter of January. So grew up several years as a kid in the Midwest. My parents divorced when I was small, so I spent a lot of my life going back and forth, every other year doing that thing with my mom and dad. My dad lived in Nebraska, and my mom lived around Washington, D.C., so I had two very different cultural lifestyles, to say the least. Small town where everybody knew each other, kind of like Mayberry RFD, to, obviously the big city. So, but I was always a country girl at heart, so I preferred the country. So I was eventually allowed to stay in Nebraska, and that's where I grew up for throughout my teen years. And then recognizing that I just don't do well with cold weather, I had to...
Yeah, that's why I'm living here in Mexico.
Yeah, my dream was to go to Hawaii, but I, at the time, was too afraid of getting homesick and then not being able to go home. So I made the decision to move away from the cold, and I went to a place in southern Missouri. It was much warmer in the winter, but after putting down dreadfully deep roots, I realized that I made a terrible mistake. I created a real problem for myself, which was that it didn't have palm trees.
Yeah.
And so I realized that if it didn't have palm trees, if it's too cold for a palm tree, it's too cold for me. Well, it took me a lot of years to finally uproot myself. And today, for the last couple of years now, I've been in Hawaii. So I'm finally living where I always wanted to live. And so I'm very glad to be here.
Wonderful. Tell us a little bit about the interim, because I always get a little interested about how was your, let's say, high school life, because that's when peer pressure really hits us, and then what you decided to do in in college and where you ended up making your decisions for some of the life choices that you made?
Well, that's a very interesting question. Like a lot of young people, I made some choices that today I would never have made had I have thought them out a little bit better. But, peer pressure is what it is, and you end up into things that maybe, like say as an adult, you thought, oh, I shouldn't have done that. So I made some of those decisions, but, we grow and we learn from them. My high school ended with my getting married. I chose that at a young age, got married right out of high school, and started a family. Because that was always really important to me as a kid of divorce, having the structure of a family and being part of a family. Mm-hmm. So I kind of considered that for many years I called it the School of Hard Knocks, and that's really kind of what I attended. I would say for many, many decades, more so than a formal education, was that I had to learn some things the hard way and had to learn how people are despite the ideologies that I had of a perfect life and, people loving each other. I found that people aren't always that way.
True.
And sometimes you have toxic people in your life and you have to move on from them. Yeah. So anyways, so that's kind of what happened. But I did have 3 beautiful children. And I'm very thankful for them. And they really gave me the reason to live in my life and to make the right kinds of decisions and to be the right kind of person. So children are a wonderful blessing and a wonderful gift when you really embrace what parenthood is supposed to do for you, which is to get you to stop living for yourself mm-hmm. and give you the basis to live for something much bigger than yourself. And so that's how that developed. And of course, in that process, I also developed as a spiritual person. So having a spiritual life has really given me a foundation by which, I was able to raise my children with and to help them not fall into some of the bad decisions that I made as a young teenager. And, so again, not having those parental role models or parental guidance, it kind of leaves a child or a young person at a disadvantage. But the one thing that I learned through all of that is, while you can blame your parents for your childhood, you can only blame yourself for the way you turn out. And that's really was a very empowering reality for me when I came to that, because of the fact that, yes, you can't change the past, but you don't have to choose to live there. And you do very proactive things and be very positive and look for the life lessons, kind of like I remember as a young person, things would happen in my life and it was very distressing to me. And I remember saying, I will never do this to my children. Those were the promises I made myself when things would happen, And as an adult, I kept those promises. I never did to my children the things that were done to me, and of course they're very thankful, right? Mm-hmm. And I am thankful too, because of the fact that I really believe that we each have the ability to pay it forward, and that's really a powerful ability that each one of us has that sometimes we don't seem to think about maybe as much as we need to, but we can rise above anything. Each one of us can. It doesn't matter how dysfunctional our childhood was or our life was. Yes, those are scars that carry with us. But, it's kind of like peer pressure in school. It's like, yes, it may happen at the time, but later when you become an adult and you're not influenced by what everyone says or thinks, you make your own decisions. And those are your ability now to do better than what was done, and to really propel positive things forward for other people. And so that's kind of our way of paying it forward.
You said something there that reminded me of a conversation, and if you don't mind elaborating on this a little bit. But from my perspective, my mother, who she means well, I'll put it that way. She means very well, as most mothers do, especially most good mothers. And but as she got older, she would blame me for certain things, and what I just did instead of arguing with her was just tell her about how she did certain things. And then she would feel guilty about it, and I said, Mom, I don't hold it against you. what I'm telling you is that I believe you did the best that you could do with the circumstances and the, say, knowledge that you had. So don't think that I'm saying something to hurt your feelings or to make you feel guilty about the past. I've moved on past that. This is my life, that is your life. And that's all we've been trying to tell you for years, is I'm going to be me, because I like this expression from Jimi Hendrix. Ultimately, when I die, I'm the one who's going to die. So please let me live my life the way that I so choose. Silence. Do we lose the call?
No, I'm here. I'm listening. Okay.
Well, I was just leaving it there, so do you have anything that you could comment on that?
Well, yeah, obviously it blamed my parents, or if I stayed in the past of being frustrated with the poor choices that they made, then I probably would have been no better of a parent than they were. But, it's kind of like, I think of life, I really appreciate this analogy. When you're driving your car, you know that you have to have your eyes on the road, because if you were driving and you were looking in your rearview mirror, and then you rear-ended somebody, when the police, when they take the investigative report and they say, what were you doing? And you said, well, I was looking in my rearview mirror, they would cite you for driver inattention.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, why is it that in life we're always moving forward, but yet we choose to look backwards? See, we can't do both at the same time. And so the point is that if you're going to move forward in your life, you got to keep looking forward. Don't look back. You're not going that way.
Yeah.
So you can't change the past. The past is what it is. But if you can learn from it and move forward and grow from that and, become a better person in spite of it, well, that's a powerful thing that no one can take from you, And when you see some people in life that you can be very inspired by, who rose above tremendous adversities, and yet they never allowed those to define who they were, and they didn't respond or react to those adversities in the way that we see a lot of people are. Well, those are the people that we call an inspiration. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a beautiful thing that each one of us has, is that we can be an inspiration to one another when we know each other's story and what we've risen from. So yeah, it's really it's all about looking forward and not beating yourself up over maybe bad decisions that you made, but just letting it go, because you can't change it. So just move on.
Yeah, and as you said, learn from your mistakes, which that's what mistakes are for, basically, is to help you to learn about life. It's just like a child. This learning how to walk is learned how to crawl. Now it wants to get up and walk like the big people, the adults. So as it's learning, it falls down. And as one person put it recently, the baby may cry, but after a while it just gets to the point of going, well, that's the process, isn't it? Okay, I get up, I fall down, and pretty soon I learn not to fall down. At least not just because I'm learning. I have learned that part. Then you start learning to run and skip and all the rest of those things. So we learn as we go along.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's an analogy that I've used for many years, and it is this: there are three kinds of people in life. There are those who learn from others' mistakes. There are those who learn from their own. And then there are those who choose to never learn at all. Now, which one you want to be is defined by the decisions that you make. Better choose wisely.
Indeed. Because life is not a dress rehearsal.
There you go. There you go.
You attended college, yes?
Actually, I have not attended formal college. As finishing high school, as I mentioned, I got married, but then I did go on to trade school for insurance.
Okay.
So, so I haven't graduated from any college or university, but I do have about 30 years of running businesses. As I was raising children, I always ran a business, so I have a lot of practical life skills that would be equivalent to many college educations or more so.
Well, experience is what it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to tell people all the time, they would go, why don't you go to school for this, that, and another? And I said, about 30, 40 years ago, there was nobody out there teaching you how to run an OS system. Somebody had to create it. So why not be the creator instead of just the person who learns? And even though I don't know much about hacking, matter of fact, I don't know anything about hacking, but many of the hackers that are out there, they actually learned how to hack not from college, not even from a good school. Yeah, they're self-taught.
They're very self-taught, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of always been the, and not everything in life. Obviously, I've had a lot of education and training. I'm in a continuing education course that I will never graduate from right now that's on public speaking and communication and teaching. So, I value education, but I think I'm a little too much of an independent thinker for the whole college university thing. It's just like when I was done with high school, I was done. I was like, okay, I'm ready to live life, and I felt like there were so many things that formal education does not teach you, that it really puts you in a disadvantaged state versus just getting out there and living life and learning how to do things and really being hands-on. So that's where I chose the running the business route and just really learning, reading books and talking to people that were successful and then just just applying it. So
commonly called on-the-job training is what we used to call it in the military.
Right. That's right.
On-the-job training.
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about wait a minute. I'm sorry. I just noticed the time. We have to take a break. Having such a great time here with Kari, I forgot. So sorry. We'll be right back, everyone. So don't go away. My guest today is Kari Gray.
Hi, this is Pat Kammer, author of Love's Voice Changes You, Book 1. And I now have Book 2, which is called Hello Awesome, Message from Spirit in Pat's Patters. Buy your book from Amazon.com.
Hey everybody, this is Jason Pockrant of Live to Give over at jasonpockrant.com, and you are listening to K-Wave 6 Radio.
Hello and welcome back. Today my guest is, again, Kari Gray of mygreensurance.com. We were talking about parents and the influence over us, and how we have to learn to get past certain things and so on and so forth before the break. And actually what we're going to get into now is just talking to Kari about her experiences from basically high school and on, from her work experiences and working in business and being successful in that, and what she had to do. In other words, hearing that, higher education is not a bad thing at all, is a wonderful thing. Some things that you can do to get where you're going in life, still in education, you can be self-taught, because many people, just like, those who started what we're listening on now, computers and whatnot, many of these people were not college graduates. They took a hobby. If you read especially about Steve Jobs and the rest of them, how they went from working on computers, which were at that time hobby things, and they made it into what we use today just to communicate via computers and whatnot. So the inspiration here is that Kari has taken something that she had a passion about, and what has led up to that was what we're using right now, is what led up to the green insurance and her experiences that got her to where she is. So, Kari?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Hi.
Yeah, your experiences in business?
Well, yes, I've had many years of experience in business. I have done several very interesting and very different from each other kinds of businesses, but what they all are doing is they're helping with this with the green insurance movement. So basically what I started out with was a service business. Anytime a person operates a service business, you understand that customer service is knocking out of the park. And you've got to really do a bang-up job to make sure that people are always kept happy. It's really important training in life because customer service is success. And that was to another business that a service. So again, customer service and, all those things were key. Sales, marketing, management, operations, all those things were essential. And then eventually after about 20 years, I ventured into a completely different direction, and that was into finance. And I spent several years as a financial consultant, and that really had helped me to understand how to help people in a way that's very personal, as far as, when it comes to your resources. It's a very important conversation that people need, and they need direction. And again, those are the things that, school, formal education doesn't always teach people, and so it leaves them at a disadvantage. That's why they need people who care and people that are very service-oriented, people that are very passionate about what they do and are helping their customers. And so anyway, so all three of those businesses, that's been my 30-year career, has brought me to what the green insurance movement is all about. And I know we'll talk about that in a little bit, but that's kind of a summation of my professional career.
Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about your customer service experiences.
Well, I started working at 15. And when I started working at 15, just as, part-time, it was always, the customer is always right. And, the customer complaints have to be handled in an appropriate manner. And that was great training because obviously in a customer-related service business, that was always the core message that, it didn't matter what you did last week. It only matters what you do today, and that's really why we have to keep people happy when we're in a service-type business, service-type industry. And so anyway, so like I said, I did that. I spent, between the two businesses, I spent about 22 years keeping people happy. So that you have to really have, you have to really love people, and you have to really have a strong desire to want to be a people person in order to withhold or withstand the demands that kind of industry is about.
Let me ask you a question about that statement. The customer is always right. I've learned that. I've worked in customer service in my time in the past, another life ago. How do you actually feel about that statement?
Well, it's obviously not true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But the point is that, people always have to feel as if they are validated.
Yeah.
And that's how you make them right. And then I used to call myself a problem resolution specialist because that's really what you have to do is you have to specialize in finding a way to take a problem and take an upset person. And now how can we have a happy relationship and give this story a good ending? And that's really what a people person and a service business has to do is you have to be able to find a way to do that and not alienate people so that they come back. Because, they say it takes about 75% of a business's resources to attract a customer and about 20% to bring them back. Mm-hmm. So, you're far better off getting customers to come to you over and over because they're happy. And, they say if you make someone happy, they tell 3 people, and if you make them upset, they tell 10.
Yeah,
so,
indeed.
Yeah. So, there you go. That's why you have to really learn how to handle people properly. And de-escalating. I mean, that's what the validation is about. It's about someone's upset, they're angry, they're whatever, they're on a tirade. Okay, how can we de-escalate this as soon as possible? Because as long as people are in that kind of a mindset, there's no rationing or reasoning with people. But as soon as they feel that they are heard, then now the conversation can actually move forward.
Indeed. Yeah, I used to have to deal with that kind of a problem in many different levels, but this show isn't about my experiences. So, anyhow, you went from customer service to then what?
Well, that's when I went into, it's still another form of customer service, but that's when I went into the finance. And after, doing the service businesses and the product business, then I went into the consulting realm of business, and just had a small, we just had a few people in our operation. I went from about 45 to 50 people in the other companies that I ran down to just a few people. But I needed to, and then I just had. Anyways, it was a really good experience, and I learned a lot of valuable things in that experience, and those have really, again, have helped me in this venture that we're in right now.
Okay. What were some of the other valuable lessons that you learned along the way? You're still kind of building up to getting into green insurance.
Yeah, okay. Well, for instance, when I was in financial consulting, this is a very interesting story. I had private investors, and what we were doing is we were providing what's called a non-recourse lawsuit loan to people. And so basically what we were doing is we were bringing in people that were injured, and injuries could be anything from an auto accident to a products liability case. And when an insurance company is involved, as an example, usually there's a great deal of time before settlement occurs. When people are injured, having the financial as an individual to withstand the deep pockets of an insurance company. So anyways, what happened was I had access to highly confidential court documents in this business. And what it taught me was something very powerful, and that is this. What I learned was that the pharmaceutical industry has, there's a plethora of product liability cases. The one I was involved with at the time was from a manufacturer called Merck, which is one of the big manufacturers, pharmaceutical manufacturers, and they had a drug called Zyprexa. Mm-hmm. And Zyprexa was actually I don't remember what it was, but anyways, it was like an antidepressant, I think, or something. Yeah. I can't remember what it was originally marketed for, but this is what I learned. I learned that the pharmaceutical industry, when it gets a patent, it only has 20 years patent protection. Mm-hmm. So what they do is they pour all kinds of money into marketing. They bring doctors into any kind of resort, from Vail and Palm Springs and the Bahamas, Hawaii. They don't care where they send them, and they cannot throw enough money at this. So they wine and dine these doctors. They bring them into the top of the line 5-star resorts, and then they bring them in and they start promoting to them what's called off-brand use. Now, off-brand use means is that they allow the doctors, they say, this is what we have FDA approval for, but what we're telling you is you can use it for blah, 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 right? Okay. Now, what they also don't tell the doctors, though, is that they when they price this, because once they have a patent, they have got complete market control. So, but they only have it for 20 years. So that's why they're very aggressive in getting their product out in what they call off-brand use. So not only do they have the market control of the one vein, but then they get market penetration from all these other avenues of off-brand use. So what they did with Zyprexa is they were giving it out to people. I think it was for a bipolar medication. I believe that's what it was. And what was happening is people were having renal failure taking it. They call it's kidney failure. Mm-hmm. So what was happening is X amount of thousands of people were dying. Tens of thousands of people were having, diabetes. They were in renal failure, in comas, and there were all kinds of serious problems. So what I didn't realize until I got access to these court documents was the fact that there is this. That Zyprexa, for example, was a drug that Merck was making $4 billion, with a B, $4 billion a year in sales. Okay? This was sold for about 10 years, and then there was this class action suit, which is what I was part of, and in this class action suit, they settled at the time. It was the largest out-of-court settlement for a product liability case, and it was $700 million, about $690 million to be exact. Mm-hmm. The point is that if you do the math, they sold the drug for it was a $4 billion a year sales times 10. That's $40 billion. They injured and killed X amount of thousands of people. They settled it for a fraction of the money that they were making, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what they called it was the cost of doing business. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
They know that there's a cost of doing business, and that there's going to always be people that are going to have reactions to drugs. And that was a real light bulb when I realized that people's lives are being traded like a commodity. Mm-hmm. That they don't care about the personal suffering that people are going through and the lives that are squandered and wasted, and all they're doing is they're pushing these doctors to be stakeholders in pharmaceutical companies, and they're giving them kickbacks, right, through their stocks and through their payoffs, and making the doctors part of the problem. So that was a real eye-opener for me. So that was one of the takeaways that I got from being 6 years as a financial consultant.
Very interesting. With that, we're going to take our middle of the program break, so please stay with us, and we're going to get into more of how Kari got into making green insurance. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to put an end to thinking about how you wish it were and take action? Take this step to find out more by going to coachingbyria.com, and you can receive your free consultation session with Coach Ria. Coach Ria is a certified professional life coach with a passion to help make the difference in the world.
Hi, this is Amy Young of JSJ Phone. We are providers of junior iPhone, iPad, iPod, also Samsung, Sony, Nokia parts and accessories at very good quality and low prices. We sell to individuals, and companies have 3 to 5 days delivery time by DHL or UPS. We do delivery in 24 hours after payment confirmed. For more information, see our website www.jsjphone.com www.jsjphone.com. Contact me Amy Young mailbox emy@jsjphone.com or by phone 0086 134 1869639 by Skype emy.yang2012.
Hi, I'm Doug Harold. You're listening to the K-Wave 6 Radio with my friend Kurt Spencer. I'm with Time and Eternity, timeandeternity.net. I'm really glad you're listening to the K-Wave 6 Radio.
Hi, and welcome back to K-Wave 6 Radio. Today, my guest is Kari Gray. We're going to get into now, since this break, about how and what motivated Kari to get involved or starting My Green Assurance. Before we go there, she's going to tell us about an experience that she had that actually got her there. But it reminds me, I'll give you a little preamble. As a holistic therapist, I was working someplace else at that time. I had just moved to Arizona and just came back from the afternoon break, and I sat down at my desk. And it looked like somebody had taken one of those little cups of yogurt and splashed it right in the center of my right eye. That's what I saw. There was no pain, nothing else. And I just went, okay, I've been eating too much junk food recently. Maybe it's just some of the preservatives that I've been eating, so on and so forth. So I said, I'll go home, clean myself up over the weekend. This was a Friday. So I did that, just cleaned out my body. And it didn't get any better at all. So I had my roommate take me over to, in Arizona, they have a thing, I don't know if it's any place else, but they have things called urgent care. It's kind of like a middle man between an emergency room and a hospital. And the doctor checked me out. He was only a general practitioner. I say only, like that's something bad. But at any rate, he was a general practitioner, and he said he thought I had a detached retina. So he set me up to go to an eye specialist. So I talked to my insurance company. They said, no, we'll send you over to is one of the university hospitals there in the Phoenix area. So doctor came in, he checked my eye, and he told me what had happened was I had a stroke. It was just a blood clot that had lodged in the back of my eye. And he said, there's no medication I can give you for that. We'll just have to see if you get better. And he said he wanted to see me 3 months later. So I came back, and he checked me out, and he says, surprisingly enough, your vision has returned to 20/20. And he wondered how I actually had done that. And I told him, I said, well, I'm a holistic therapist. Well, he knew that from the first meeting that we had. And so I told him what I had done, and he said he was going to take this to, now I don't remember what you call an eye surgeon. There's a name for that one. But he was going to take it to his conference, and they were going to do a study on it. So the problem is that, as Kari's going to tell us a little bit later, most insurance companies, as probably most of you know, don't cover what we call these days alternative health care. So this is where Kari came in with My Green Insurance. But before we go there, Kari, tell us about your experience, which is much more devastating than what mine could have been. So take it from there.
Okay, sure. Well basically, I was a young mom, 3 small children, and I had great health, I thought. I mean, I just, always, like any woman, always wanted to lose a few pounds, but anyway, so I went to my primary care physician, and I wanted to just get a physical. So that's what I did, and what I didn't realize what was going to happen and the domino events that would transpire. So basically what happened was I get a call from my doctor, which was the first red flag, because the doctor never calls you, it's always his nurse. Anyway, so and he informed me that of what my blood tests were and what my liver was, and that I had liver cancer.
Ooh.
And I was devastated, of course. So, I didn't know what to do. I mean, I was crying and whatnot. They wanted to run more tests. So later I went back to a different doctor, and again, got the same reaction, same results, which was, they ran more tests to confirm the liver and that there was no option medically afforded to me because of the fact that my cancer was so advanced. A devastating time in my life. I was 27 years old, and the idea of leaving my children without a mother was incredible. And I just spent many days in bed very depressed and really devastated and not knowing what to do. At the time, I knew nothing about alternative medicine. I had a grandmother who was kind of a hypochondriac, so she was always at the doctor, so I always kind of tried to stay away from them. But at this point, when they told me I had no chance to survive, just something else. And so I did a lot of praying, soul searching, and I came across someone who was an alternative practitioner. She tested me also, and she gave me the same diagnosis unbeknownst to herself that I had already gotten medically. Mm-hmm. I did that on purpose because I just wanted to see. I wasn't really sure that this was really going to work. I always heard so many negative things about alternative at that point. Mm-hmm. So, but that was a lot of validity to me. I mean, when she diagnosed me without knowing what the doctor said, from the way she tested me, that told me that she knew what she was talking about. So she asked me this question. She says, do you believe that you have a chance? And I said, well, I wouldn't be here if I didn't think I did. And she says, well, I think you have a chance, and this is the reason why. A, because you're young. She says, B, if you do everything I tell you to do. And C, she said, if you accept the fact that there will be no insurance for anything that you do, though you have coverage, right? And I said, yes. She goes, well, they're not going to cover anything. She goes, if those 3 things, if you agree with me, then we can do something. And I said, okay. So that's exactly what happened. So basically, I paid for everything out of pocket, and everything incurred actually thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because of all the things I had to change. And that people ask me what kind of changes. Well, I had detoxes and cleanses. I took hundreds of herbs a week. And I had to change so many things about my life. I had to invest in good cookware. I had to get water purification. I had to change the way I was running my business at the time because I was exposing myself to too many chemicals. I had to totally get the chemicals out of my life because as we know, the liver, so my sick.
Okay, hold
because
on.
it had been things that I had been exposed to.
Kari, hold on a second. Skype
Yes,
did it to
sure.
us again.
Uh-oh.
The last thing we heard was the liver.
Oh, okay. The liver is the filter to the body.
Uh-huh.
So everything I was exposed to was toxic to my liver, which was already overloaded. And that's why the cancer was there. So basically it was a multiple phase approach that I had absolutely no financial support for, and I did not know the results. All I knew was if I was going to die, I was going to die trying.
Mm-hmm.
And call it fighting like a girl. So I chose to fight. And well, 8 months later, I went back to my medical doctor just to see if I was making any progress. Now, this is where things get really interesting because she was shocked that I was still alive. And
Yeah.
I was shocked at her reaction. Anyways, and then when I told her what I had been doing, she totally dismissed it, said, I don't want to hear about this, as if it was illegal, right?
Pretty much it is.
Yeah. And so she said, no, we're going to rerun these tests, and you need to go home and you need to get prepared. You need to get prepared for the worst. You know. So again, here I am days waiting for these tests to come back, and I am just devastated. I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to tell my children. And I come back to the doctor's office, and she comes in with my tests. She won't make eye contact with me. And when I try to engage her in conversation by telling her again what I'd been doing, she stops me, tells me I don't want to hear about it. And as we sit there in this awkward silence, finally, with great remiss, she looks up and she says, I don't want to hear what you've been doing, but I am going to tell you something. She said, I saw what your tests looked like before, and I see what they look like now. She says, congratulations, you're cancer-free. There you go. That was the bomb, and it changed my life because not only did I get a second chance at life, but what I did was I got an opportunity to see that the medical establishment, especially at that time, this was almost 25 years ago, was so narrow-minded and so very closed off from anything that was what considered non-conventional that it really opened my mind to the fact that really if you want health, you can't just think that it's going to come from a medical approach. And so that's where this venture started. And at that point, I thought I had a very simple plan of action. My plan of action was just to go find insurance that would provide me with alternative health care so that if I ever faced a catastrophe again, I would have coverage. Mm-hmm. Everywhere I went, everyone I talked to, all responded with the following. Sounds like a great idea, and if you ever find it, let us know. But no, there's no such thing available.
Mm-hmm.
So, years I spent for.
Okay, sorry, Skype did it to us again. You
And
said so?
So I spent many years searching for what I felt was the answer, but was never able to find. And it wasn't until I changed careers to insurance that I finally discovered
How to do it yourself.
And that is I wrote a patent for alternative medicine healthcare coverage after I discovered how to create the policies, which is why no one has ever had coverage for this because there's never been a policy written for it. And now there will be. That's what green insurance is about.
Cool. So green insurance is actually, let's put it this way, can I buy green insurance from you now?
Not as yet, and that's why we need people to know about green insurance because what we are is we are a movement, okay? So if you think about it like a Costco or a Sam's Club, anything that you have a cooperative of people that come together as a member group, okay? Mm-hmm. When you put people together in a group membership, what you do is you create buying power, mm-hmm. buying power that individuals can never have. So Greensurance is about creating the buying power that will open up this opportunity to buy this kind of coverage. So what we have to do, those of us who want alternative medicine health insurance, what we have to do is we have to identify ourselves. Because what you have to understand about the insurance industry is that the insurance industry is following the money. Okay? Mm-hmm. The money is in healthcare. It's a $2 trillion a year industry. Mm-hmm. They're not going to offer an alternative medicine health insurance when there's absolutely no way to identify where that market is. And the problem has been is that people who want alternative, holistic, they're not organized. Why we're asking people to join the Greensurance movement, this co-op for change, identify yourself with us so that when I, as an insurance professional, negotiate with these, I do so on behalf of all of our members.
Wonderful. I love this idea. Are you just going to go with just the United States, or are you making this as a worldwide campaign?
Well, that's a great question, and the answer is right now the United States is tough enough to penetrate. I mean, it's not that we can't do it in other countries and at other points in the future, but right now our first agenda is the U.S. because it's such a significant it's such a significant issue with Obamacare and people being forced into medical coverage, medical care. And you, like for instance, as being in Mexico, a fraction of what it costs in the U.S. Mm-hmm. So, it's bankrupting people, right? And so that's the reason why people who want alternative medicine also recognize that there is a peril, and that is when you're trying to self your own care, that can be a very expensive process. And that's what people really need coverage for, the things that give them the treatments that is when it's most important, especially. That's when it's like things like critical illness.
Yeah. We're going to come back with this conversation in just a few minutes, right after we take our next break. So stay tuned with my guest, Kari Gray of mygreensurance.com.
Do you get writer's block or tongue-tied when you try to write or talk? Or you sound like me and would rather have somebody else with a beautiful voice do a presentation for you? Let K-Wave 6 Productions help you with all your audio, visual, editing, and language translation needs for your business or hobby. Does the thought of creating a website give you the chills? Well, we got that handled too. We have webmasters that can help you with all your website needs. Remember K-Wave 6 Productions at www.kwave6productions.tk, or you can email us at info@kwave6productions.tk.
Hi, this is Megan Serleski, author of Who Am I? How My Daughter Taught Me to Let Go and Live Again, and I am on K-Wave 6 Radio.
Hi and welcome back. We're in our final segment for our show today, and my guest again is Kari Gray of MyGreensurance. MyGreensurance. Let's spell it for you. MyGreensurance.com. Might as well tell you about that in the beginning of this segment. She'll tell you again at the end of the show. And we're going to continue on with, she was talking about covering insurance right now for the United States and possibly in the future worldwide. But that's another issue. Got to start somewhere. So you were talking about a little bit about that with the Obamacare, as it's commonly called these days. So how do you think you're going to work along with that or alongside it, whatever?
Well, that's a great question, and the answer is this, is that Obamacare is, as we know, it's the Affordable Care Act, and it's legislation that basically gives people a lot of insurance for a lot of different things, and that's why it's so expensive and people are so unhappy with it. So the problem is that people either A, can't afford it, or B, they say it's part of healthcare that I don't want to use anyways, and so though that there is a taxation penalty, they're still refusing to buy coverage. So what Green Insurance basically is this. We are creating this movement for this policy. The policy will be a standalone, so that means it can be your only coverage, or it could be an addition to, or as they call an addendum in insurance, to what you have in conventional health care. So basically what that simply means is that it has to make financial sense to the person who's being covered. And that's really what we're talking about here, because in the current situation right now, anybody who does not choose conventional, the only choice is to fund your own care. And anyone who's tried that knows what an expensive process that is. And anybody who's even just committed to eating right and to, just clean organic food understands this is a very expensive commitment when you're in the winter. In the U.S. because of the fact that produce is all being shipped from all over. Mm-hmm. So just as one example, right? When you live in Mexico, it's easy. But there's a lot of people that obviously don't have that luxury. And so how is it that people are going to be able to navigate all of that? Well, that's why as a former financial consultant, one thing that I recognize is that insurance is a very smart financial protection tool. And so that's the reason why it's very important for people to finally have access to something that has never been available to them before. And that's why I'm here talking about Green Insurance then.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this, because this is something I learned when I was doing, or if you want to call it, I hate the word practice, but practicing holistic therapies back in the States. We know this from the AMA, who has said they're not really interested in curing. They're not there to cure. They're only there to soothe the symptoms. Is basically Absolutely. What the drugs are. They're not really curative. Absolutely. And even when we're talking about psychiatrists, when you sit in with a psychiatrist, and many say go in and sit with a psychiatrist 5 to 10 minutes, and you talk to them, and they've already given you a prescription. There's no drugs, they don't give you any kind of written test, they don't give you any kind of blood test or anything else. They just say, you have an imbalance in your system, so here's a drug that will balance you. So you get that dependency going on. So how do you think you're going to, what is your expectations, or what do you think, or if you will, running against a wall? Are you going to run into a wall trying to fight possibly the AMA with this idea?
Yeah, well, again, this is the problem, and this is the thing, is that there are very deep pockets that Green Insurance is in opposition to, and we're not going to fight with the AMA. We're empowering people to make the choice, because in the United States, people still get the right to make a choice, and that's really what we're talking about. Is if you have a right to make a choice, then let's exercise that choice, and that's what Green Insurance is about, the voice for choice, and we're about the empowering people. Change happens as a momentum of people who have a common interest come together, for the cause that they recognize has immense value. And you think about all the other movements that have happened in the past, and those have all come about. Those changes have all come about from labor unions and racial issues, to it's because people got behind it, and it didn't matter the forces that were against it. The people were behind it, and that's really what we're hoping with Green Insurance. This will create. This is a people movement, and the people have the power to make change happen. They just have to. That's where the whole green movement is coming from. Is because people are recognizing the value of our spending and how much power we each have. Maybe not individually, but collectively, we've got a lot of power to make change happen.
I'm actually very, very happy to hear you say what you just saying. Instead of looking at difficulties, instead of looking at the, oh, I can't, or, ooh, that's going to be difficult, you choose to look at the positive side and go, I can and I will, which
Absolutely.
Is basically what you've been talking about through this whole interview. Through
Absolutely.
your whole life, it has been, okay, I don't have this, but that's not going to stop me. I'm going to focus on what I want and what's beneficial not only for me, because you said it in your own way. It's not always about you. It's about your family. It's about your kids. And also, in what I like to tell other people is you can't always focus on everybody else and giving unless you give it to yourself first. If you didn't give yourself first to get rid of that liver cancer, you wouldn't be here talking about green insurance now.
Right.
So you have to take care of yourself before you take care of others, because my quick analogy is if you don't have $5 and somebody comes up, can you loan me $5? I don't have it. So you don't take care of yourself, you can't help others.
Right.
And you're doing all of this not only for yourself, but as you said, as a collective.
Right, absolutely.
So you are going to get there, and I wish you all the best in getting there. But we still have some more time, so we're not closing yet. So
Good.
Yeah, so I know you told me off air that you have a lot of stories that you could tell. You have about 5 minutes. What can you give us in that time?
Well, I would just say this, that, when, let me go back to my cancer, having a near-death experience, it changes a person in a way, and it changes you for the better. Anybody that's ever looked their own mortality in the face and recognizes that life is precious, it really changes you. It's a good thing. I'm glad that I got that experience, and I was able. People have trusted the healthcare system and are losing the battle with their lives. The price they're paying is with their lives, because they are using toxic treatments to treat a toxic disease, and it's a lethal combination, and people are not surviving. So, basically what green insurance is about is we're about people who are deciding that, they're sick and tired of the way things are. And Albert Einstein is somebody that I really, really appreciate his intellect. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I like to quote from him is that he said, that we cannot use the same thinking to solve a problem that we used when we created it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that we just have to recognize is that our healthcare system is a system. That's what it is. And it is a system. Exploit okay, and it's not create cures for disease.
Okay, I'm going to stop you again. We have a system that is in problems. That's all I heard.
Oh, okay. Where do you want me to start? Do you want me to just say that sentence again?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so we have a system that is a business. Okay, and the business of healthcare, once you understand the business of healthcare, you'll understand that no matter what has been promised, and we just need your donations for blah blah blah, the American Cancer Society, or whatever, Muscular Dystrophy Association, whatever it is, as long as they keep telling you that there will be cures for disease, that they're almost there with just your donations, we'll get there, they're just stringing people along. And I'll tell you a profound story. I was 9 years old, and I listened to the Jerry Lewis on the Muscular Dystrophy Telethon, and I just was sobbing. I wanted to help those poor children so much. So I went door to door to raise money for Jerry Lewis's telethon. And what's interesting, about 40 years later, I just happened to be somewhere and I watched it again, and Jerry Lewis was still doing it, and he was still saying the same thing. And it really is a profound point, which is, as long as the money is being made on the treatment of disease, there will never be cures for any disease out there. Mm-hmm. So that's why we have to stop relying on the business of healthcare to solve our health issues. And so really that's what alternative is about. It's the original healthcare. That's why we're all here. So it's really about using the things that are natural and that work with our own health to strengthen our bodies, to keep us alive and healthy, and to not make us chemically dependent the way the medical approach wants us to be. The medical approach is sponsored by the pharmaceutical industry, and it's about the money, and it's a business. It's a very profitable business. So if that's something that you're sick and tired of, if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, then join us and make your voice heard. That's what we're all about here at Green Insurance.
Indeed. And in closing, why don't you give us your website once again?
Absolutely. So that's my, green, like the color, Surance, like insurance without the I-N, so that's mygreensurance.com.
And you can find out a whole lot of information right there. And can people contact you from your website?
Absolutely. We answer any questions that they have, and we'll be glad to talk to them also.
Wonderful. With that, Kari, I want to say thank you very much for being here on the show. And as I told you, even off air, you're always welcome to come back when you have more information or you just have a topic you want to talk about. It's always great to have you here.
Thank
you. Yeah.
Thanks.
And as in closing, I just have a couple little messages here that I need to pass on to you, the listener. RadioGuestList.com is where I get my guest from, and very nice people on there. Actually, Kari was not one of those. I got there from LinkedIn. If you have any questions, comments, and or suggestions, you can make your suggestions through the contact page on my website, which is kwave6radio.tk, or you can just send it through your own email at info@kwave6radio.tk. All of our shows are available to be listened on multiple venues, such as iTunes, Stitcher, RSS feed, and they're all smartphone and computer friendly, and they're downloadable, and they're always free. So everyone, thank you for being here. Kari, if you're still there.
I'm still here.
Thank you once again for being here, and we hope to see all of you again soon.
Thank you for being part of our audience. For more information about K-Wave 6 Radio and the services we offer, go to www.kwave6radio.tk. Have a wonderful day.